Good evening. Welcome to the Word That Works. We're going to have an exciting evening today because we're going to do some plain talk, as they say, about trauma and depression. So I'm going to have today, we're going to have a discussion mode with Pastor West and I, and we're going to try to talk about it in a manner that follows the phone calls that we've received, wanting to know about depression, and there's some questions about it. But first, we need to then look at how is this such a most important topic, and why is this an important topic? At this time, we have with us a series of traumatic events that have occurred, and many of you have engaged with COVID. You've been here with the several floods that have occurred previously, and now we have a situation where there are several traumatic situations within our own community regarding violence. So I thought we would then look at the persons that are calling in, asking and talking about the sadness that they're experiencing and the difficulty that they have completing things that they must complete. And what is all of this about? So, one of the things that I want to do is to first clear up the idea of what depression is and what trauma is and stress. We've talked before about stress being a daily thing that we experience that pushes us just a little past what we want to do at the moment. So we feel a little tired, and but when that situation moves or fearful, when that situation moves from our face or our awareness, we no longer feel that. But if we do, then we have anxiety as how we interpret the situation or event, and trauma, whereas if the situation is not there and we still feel the sense of intense frustration and fear and anxiety, then we know that we're engaged in trauma. And it becomes post traumatic trauma. And I'm just going to say this trauma is as if the situation is moved, and now we begin to see this in our sleeps and we relive the event as if it was still there. So many of us are experiencing this, and now it's affecting our jobs, what we do, and our relationship. So Pastor West and I are going to talk about what exactly is this depression, and how is it really affecting what we do in our everyday lives. So I do know that we're going to bat around the whole idea of what depression is. So Pastor West, I know that I'm going to read this because this is something that is kind of general for someone. It is really, depression is something that occurs that actually affects our mood or the way that we feel, and can actually be treatable. So can you want to talk a little bit about your view of what depression is?
Depression is a major, we can have a major depressive disorder, or we can have a seasonal depression disorder. But all those, you have depressed mood, you have sadness, you sometimes you lose weight and not intending to diet, but you still lose weight. You are isolated, you have a loss of energy, you have feelings of worthlessness. All of those are underlying signs of depression.
Yes. So one of the things that I want to bring up is that most people don't think, and I want to read this one question that came in this morning, and we now have a lot of people want to call in and discuss this with us. But this one person is asking, she wants to know. She said she went to the doctor, and she was just feeling an upset stomach. The doctor told her that she was depressed, but she did not feel depressed. And she wants to know if, in fact, she could be depressed if she didn't feel it. And she's afraid to take medication, and afraid to return to the doctor's office because she'll be required to take medication. So I wanted to say that to answer her at this moment, and we could discuss that. Yes, you can be depressed and not actually feel it, because the chemical changes can occur in your body. And there are like three different things, and I'm not going to get technical because we know that we got a feel good neurotransmitter. We have things that when we're afraid and angry, it makes us want to run, or either we want to stay there or something if we have a fear.
Right.
So we have these different transmitters that can be going on and changing the chemistry of our bodies, and we can just have one little twitch or pain in terms of that. So um, the answer to Miss Felicia is that yes, you can be depressed. Here's some other ways, and let's talk about some other ways that people can know that they're depressed, Miss West, and then we're going to talk about why this is so important. You can have my change in appetite is not really the not wanting to eat. I find that when I'm stressed and depressed, I eat. So I overeat. I'm finding that I'm looking for something crunchy all the time. So what I'm trying to engage in right now is to say that there's a personality, a personal orientation that's associated with the cycle of depression. There's a cultural factor related to depression there. And some people feel that it may not affect their thinking, but it does. When you find
It
yourself
does.
locked into a thought, yes. And so you said what? You
And
said
indecisiveness. Yeah,
yes, yes. Uh-huh.
difficulty making decisions, indecisive about a situation. And if this occurs for a long period of time, the factors that's one of the diagnostic factors that determines whether you're depressed or not.
Yes, yes. Now look,
So, and you
the
know what?
thing,
Restlessness. You can be restless, and things are not. Just things are out of order and moving all around you. That's another sign of depression. Go ahead, Dr. Lewis.
yes, yes. I wanted to say one of the biggies is the not only the loss of energy, but just not interested in doing nothing. Not interested
Yes,
in doing a thing. Some people just are not, they can't figure out, I just don't want to do nothing. Well, what did you do
yes,
today? It wasn't a big deal. So all of those things together, they may not occur at the same time. Now,
yes.
I wanted to say, now this depression thing can affect us in more ways than one. It could affect us, I call it in the sense of well-being. Um,
Hmm.
I know when my daughter died, I was definitely depressed. I was functioning, but I was a functioning depressed person. So
Hmm.
therefore, what I realized and I made note of, and I was sharing that with someone, is that I didn't do all of my bills. So for example, I would forget to pay something, or I would put it there, but my mind was totally distracted. So depression then and loss, and it can affect the way that you think and the way you function. You see what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
So
right,
sometimes people think,
right.
"Oh, I must have dementia, or I must have something else." But it actually can be a normal phase of an actual loss. So depression can be attached to something that is ongoing and lost. Oh, I see our person is here. Thank you. How are you?
Hello,
Welcome.
hello.
Wonderful. And I
That's
thank you
all
for
right.
carrying on.
Yes,
Life
yes.
happens.
So
Life happens, and you
that's
can get
right.
depressed or you can keep pressing, right?
That's right. You
Yes,
keep
yes,
pressing on. That's right. So one of
you
the
know,
things
yes.
that
yeah, I was just
you
going
were
to say,
saying,
you were talking. I know. I was going to say one of the things that you were talking about was depression, and Dr. Lewis, I tell you, more people have undiagnosed depression than anything else.
that's right. That's right.
Really and
That's
truly,
right.
out of all of the mental disorders, and then they can take forms and go to another place. You know what I'm saying? Because they lead, our
That's right.
behaviors lead to make us susceptible at high risk to other things. And so, I remember so many times when I could barely drag myself up out of the bed, really. Or if I did, I didn't want to go out of the house, or I walked around with a coat and a hoodie on my head for in the summertime. in the
Yes, yes.
summertime.
Because it made you feel secure. It made you feel comfortable. It made you feel like something was taking care of you,
Yes,
and increased your
yes,
well-being. You see, yes. So
yes,
everything has a
yes,
meaning.
Mine
So I
manifested like the lady. Mine manifested like the lady in my stomach. I was sick because of
yes,
worry and
yes,
anxiety and feeling lonely. And so it
yes,
manifested in my stomach, and I was developing ulcers as a result
yes,
of the depression that I was going through.
yes,
yes,
yes. And
yes,
you know, it's so much of that going on now with the advent of the COVID, and also with all of the violence and whatever is going on in our communities so close to us and face, seeing our relatives and friendships, people actually dying from the disease, and feeling helpless and not being able to do anything, really is what they call like a pileup effect of
yes,
situations and anxieties that can actually bring on many other things that can affect diabetes. It can affect your blood pressure. It can, as we were saying, it can affect the way you think and many other situations. So now, one of the things with the call in that we had, I shared with someone the other day that I had a friend that on last week I was sharing this, a Euro American who worked with me years ago, and we did a lot of protesting together. And
mm-hmm,
in the '60s, I'm telling my age now, in the '60s and whatever. So, so one of the things is that she became ill the other day, and she couldn't get herself together. She called me, and I was so tired in the evening. But when I heard that call, it was very much like when Floyd was calling his mother. You know that sound. You know, like you really got to go. You know. So I went, and what I realized is that other people in other cultures are going through some of the same thing for different reasons. They're feeling helpless, out of pocket, not being able. These are some words that she was using. Like she couldn't do
mm-hmm,
anything about what she saw was going on. She felt responsible. She felt like she needed to do something with people that she knew, so that she could make help. And so she felt vulnerable, and so it brought on illness and stomach pain and many other physical ailments. So it gave me a different vantage look to see what depression and sadness looked like, um, for different reasons. You see, same
yes,
purpose, different reasons, to be able to relate to it
yes,
in a different way. So that was good. So I wanted to talk about what you all want to talk about, and what everybody's asking about is this post-traumatic slave syndrome. And I
mm-hmm,
got so many calls on this. And they want to look at, is depression real for African Americans? Or do you describe it the same way if you define depression as a situation that's overwhelming? How do we define that for African Americans if we look at it from a historical point of view in terms of how long the depression has been going on, and what do you do to help yourself? Anybody
Well, I think
help
that
me, because they
I,
asking me. I got some answers, but
I'm, you know, and I've been looking at this for a while now, and slave depression for us as a culture has been intergenerational. And so we've carried the burden of slavery, and we've carried that burden of what is it, Jim Crow, and we've carried all that
yes,
discrimination. And so it's been intergenerational, and it's just been passed down from one generation to the next. And so naturally there's going to be built up anger, there's going to be a suppression of anger that's been built up, and now we have a reason. All we're looking for is a reason, because all this other stuff has already happened to us. And so now we have a reason to be violent. And I'm not saying that I condone that violence, but I do understand it.
right, yes. So they're saying that they call that is how experiences of previous generations tend to affect the way that we think. Is all in our DNA, and how we actually
Yeah.
move, and the ultimate goal of many of the misbehaviors is, they say that they're basically what, four goals of misbehavior. Let me see if I can remember what they were: affection, revenge, um it'll come back to me, but whatever, the four miss thing, because you actually trying to actually look at how can I get rid of this situation. So I do know that there were four: it's love, affection, revenge, and anger, power and control.
Power,
So
Power and
you
control.
power and
power.
control. So it's
Mhm,
actually all about
mhm,
responding and reacting to power and control and revenge, and trying to get the affection and understanding that you really
mhm,
want to make yourself more meaningful and a whole person. And so we are not encountering situations generally, or knowing how to do it, because there's so many barriers that are there. So one of the things I
mhm,
thought we would talk about tonight, rather than talk about exactly what's already there only in the situation, what was in the past, how can we use the past to build upon for resilience? How can we bring healing to the situation? What is really needing to be healed? That's my question.
Based on what Pastor West just said, fetal psychology lets us know that genetically a child can be messed up before he's born or she is born.
Hmm.
And just the spirit of reject, what we call in church the spirit of rejection, but just to hear a father say, I don't want your child, or I didn't want you to get pregnant, or I got pregnant by accident, it already predisposes that child to a feeling of inferiority. I think one of the greatest things that we need to do is start teaching our children our real history, not just
That's
from
right.
slavery, but from before slavery, teaching them
Mm-hmm.
their identity. Because if you don't know
Mm-hmm.
your identity and your history, you will never be able to reach your maximum destiny. So I think that that is vitally important. We have so long hid a lot of things, or covered things, or didn't expose or didn't teach things because we were embarrassed about them, or we felt insecure about them, or we just decided we've overcome that and that's not necessary. But I think children, especially minorities and African Americans, need to know the strength that they really have, the mental power you really do possess. Yes, you have these emotions, but there's another part of you that can overcome those emotions when you utilize it and maximize it right, and that's your mind. Your mind and your
I think
spirit can take you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm. Go. I'm
Go
agreeing
ahead.
with you. I'm agreeing with you in this part that you just mentioned. You mentioned
Mm-hmm.
about the family and those things. So the point that I want to see us talk about is being intergenerational. Is that there's a part of acculturation brings in the valuing of separating. In order to be grown up or to develop, you must separate from your family. Yes, like children or birds, they teach their young to fly, and then you go your way. But one of the things is
Mm-hmm.
that j- birds then tend to stay together, and the cows,
Mm-hmm.
I pay attention to cows in the field. The cows are also
Mm-hmm.
separate. They have their separate families, but they also are likened into a group, and they stay together and support each other in terms of feeding and socialization. So one of the things
Mm-hmm.
we were taught in terms, speaking of intergenerational and families, not to, you may not be together, and you may
Mm-hmm.
not know how to stay together in this world. So this is not a value. Jobs take you away, and no one's taught
Mm-hmm.
the family was functional as opposed to dysfunctional. The,
Absolutely,
the,
absolutely. And that's why for coming, well, Abraham had to leave his family to do such and such. But what if my family is so together and so supportive? even though I won't be the third generational doctor, but still supportive of what it is I feel my call is or my duty is to mankind, and just support me in making that decision while I do that and watch me soar to
Yes.
be the best I can be.
Right.
So
Even
I think
teaching
that
us
was
how to
wrong.
do that. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Right.
It was supposed to be
I think
30
How
one of
to
the I
go
minutes,
think
about that.
Pastor. It's supposed to be
I think
30
one of the
minutes.
things.
That's all it had to be
Go
was
ahead.
30 minutes. And you know what happened? It ended up 2.5 hours. Not because I was pulling for it, but because they was pulling for it.
Right.
That makes a
Mm-hmm.
difference. Then they
Another.
say, Grandma, we gotta do this every month. Every month now.
Wow.
Go ahead,
Wow.
Doc. Go ahead, Rick.
I think another thing that we miss is that we don't teach our children affirmations. And
Yes,
so when we have to teach them affirmations and to let them know that they are somebody. And we see Joel
yes,
Osteen every Sunday he gets up in that pulpit and he repeats the same
yes,
thing.
yes,
We need to
yes.
give our children affirmation.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
even we
My
used to
mom,
teach.
go ahead, Dr. Lewis.
We used to teach our children how to have family affirmations. The parents, what to
Mhm.
say about your family. Who do you know
Mhm.
in your lineage, in your family? When you
Mhm.
say your prayer, do you include your ancestors? To begin to feel
Mhm.
that they're linked, like you were saying, Dr.
Absolutely.
Lee, that they're linked to somebody, and they have to practice being linked to somebody. And so when you call out those people's names, and when you share those stories, those are ways in which you remain connected in your mind, in
That's
your
true.
spirit, and you
Yes.
Yes,
then feel that you are not alone, you see. So
That's true.
those are
exactly.
some of the things that I was talking about that we should really begin for resilience, and bring healing. And then also how to respect and talk to each other every day that brings on the same love and respect of connected. Now, I had this big talk with some groups that I'm working with because, they go behind the scene and they talk. Our ultimate goal is to provide services and heal the community. So then, when persons begin to speak as if they are looking at a whole different idea and excluding the community, then are you in fact taking care of the community when you're not including the community? So,
Mhm.
transparency and openness is very important, just as in any other relationship, as to how you express, and that brings on healing. You see, people then feel it's same if you were trained in the police department. So to how to handle these circumstances, you would have to help the police department internalize the need and the importance by working alongside people in the community, not fighting, not arguing,
Absolutely.
not saying
Absolutely.
they're but to actually. So I really liked it when the police department, when the people had to live in the community, when teachers had to live in the
Yes,
community or live close to the
yes. That made
community,
a difference.
because people,
That made a
you
big
trusted the.
difference.
That's right. And so this is
That's
what we
right.
need
I
to
was your
begin to look.
neighbor, and your children
Yes,
played with
right. You're
my
gonna.
children,
That's right.
and they went to
That's
school
right.
with my children. Absolutely. Absolutely. Made
So,
a
and
big
But
that's what
we've
I
difference.
say
lost.
when.
We've lost honor, and we don't know how to honor
Yes,
one another. And so they
yes,
taught us.
yes,
My grandmother taught me how to honor older people. I just couldn't talk to older
yes,
people any kind of way. So we've lost that ability to teach and to pass those stories down, and
yes,
we don't do that
yes, yes.
anymore.
Yes, yes.
Right. We
So
need
that you'll know, Doc, we starting our intergenerational parenting and
service.
training program. We had it
Mhm.
in 2007, and we're going to re-implement it and add some components to it starting in
Yes.
August. So, and then we're
Amen.
going to measure the results of this. Yes, yes, yes. And I hope you be a
Amen.
part. I
It's
hope you be
gotta
a
be.
part of it.
We
Yes,
gotta rebuild the village. We have to rebuild
yes.
the village.
Mm,
There's no way we can go any further until we mend these relationships And we actually find value and provide a safe and therapeutic environment in every area, on our jobs, in our homes, in our churches, because we can find abuse and misuse at every level of life, in every entity, every organization. But we have to go back truly loving our neighbor as ourselves. And when we do
Mm-hmm.
that, people will feel, children and youth and everybody will feel significant, and they'll feel a value. And you know, when you treat people significant and they feel they're valuable, they'll act valuable. They will act like
Hmm.
that.
That's the truth. That's true. You know, they
That's
laughed at
right.
my theme. I've been had this theme since 2000 and something. And back then we would look like renew the things you believe, renew your beliefs, rebuild your
Yes,
faith and how you connect in those things in your action, and reconnect with your family and your communities. And that would bring about
yes.
whole body wellness, you see. And
Oh,
so I
absolutely.
think if we began to practice those things in everything that we do, then we could do that. You know, we would actually move forward. So I think we got some answers here for resilience. We're on the brink of it anyway for
Absolutely.
our
We've made some
community.
inroads.
That's that's right. That's right. That's right. That's
A
right.
lot more to
Uh-huh.
be done, but we are on the we've got it to breakthrough. Ladies, it is 9:27. I cannot believe how fast time flies. I tell you, this is such a good
Fun when
Monday
you're
nights
having
are so
fun.
exciting. Yeah, it flies when
Yes.
you're having fun. I want to say you ladies are doing a great job, and Dr. Lewis, you and your team are really making an impact in the community. And now you'll be able to make a bigger impact in regards to all the things that's going around. If people ever needed to be healed, if people ever needed to be accepted, if they ever needed to know that it's going to be okay and that they can make it, it's now. Everybody
Yeah,
needs
tell
some
them to
type of
sign up.
encouragement.
Tell them to sign up at wrc-houston.com. And we
Say
have
that
health
again.
programs
Sign up where?
at
Sign up where?
WRC, wrc-houston.com.
All righty. Look,
Imani
we want to
Faso.
thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight, well, for allowing us to come and visit you tonight. We want to thank you so very much for tuning in to the Word That Works, because we believe that when the Word works, when you work the Word of God will work for you. The principles we're talking about are simply biblical principles, and that is do unto others that you would have them to do unto you. Parents, train up your child in the way they should go. When they're old, they won't depart from it. And love never fails. It is a true fact, if we exercise those principles of God, that they will come back to us in a way that we could never believe. I want to share with you that we appreciate you so very much. You can see us on Sundays at 5 p.m., Mondays at 9 p.m., and on Fridays at 9 p.m. for finance. And that is Central Standard Time. We want to tell you that whatever is bothering you, God will see you through. Don't you let go. You hold on and know that victory is on the way. Even in our lifetime, we're going to see some major changes, and because God is working behind the scenes. Dr. Lewis, Pastor West, thank y'all so very much. I appreciate y'all. God
Thank
bless y'all. And all listening audience, we all appreciate you. Don't forget to meet us back here on Monday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. It's going to get better and better. God bless you and have a great night.